Ariel Boone. She's a junior at UC Berkeley. She's completing a double major in music and political economy. She's a member of CalServe and an ASUC senator. She's been active in organizing the student movement against the budget cuts.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. So I want to address a topic that has not necessarily been named tonight, but it's that of safety. And when we think of budget cuts, we don't necessarily think of safety, but it definitely relates to what Cynthia Nava just spoke to. And the way that safety relates to what we'll face tomorrow is that the fight is not just to access public education, but to know that when your feet are firmly planted on a college campus, you will feel safe. And I'm not just talking about safety like the email that the head of the Academic Senate sent out this afternoon, which was great because it actually told us all how they would prefer we stay safe tomorrow. And so the first order was that we heed all instructions by the police, no matter what. And then the second order was that to exit tense or incendiary situations by, I'm quoting now, extend your arms and push your way out of the crowd. Right. And I'm also not talking about safety as other parts of the administration would see it. See, I was just hired as a tour guide, and so of course I'm speaking as an individual now, okay. Last night they sent out an email with all of the buildings that will be preventatively closed before tomorrow, essentially limiting access to Cal's highest paid individuals. And sorry, not tour guide, campus ambassador, I forgot. Okay, so every time a tour is led through campus, and this happens, dozens of times a day, we get to California Hall, and we're instructed to talk about why there are no door handles on it, but a peephole. And so, we have to tell the story to dozens of people. The free speech movement happened here. It is part of Berkeley's fantastic legacy of activism. When you get here, don't worry, you can be as apathetic as you want, but we have proof the free speech movement happened. Look, no door handles, and there's a cafe right behind you named after it. But we are also told to tell the story of the 800 students who were arrested in Sproul and then bailed out by faculty members afterwards. And this relates to something that just happened in the state legislature that really connected in my head this evening, which is that for the purposes of protesting, there were hundreds of students fighting for public education in the Capitol this weekend. And one group of them went to Darrell Steinberg's office, and they sat in there. They had a great conversation with Steinberg. He ended up doing the unity clap with them, and it was kind of a love-in. And then the other group went to Jim Nielsen's office, where they were all instructed to disperse after, there was at least 100 of them there. They were instructed to disperse. 5 remained. And the Capitol Police were called on them, and they were arrested and taken away. 2 were Berkeley students. And what ended up happening was that another senator, Leland Yee, who's just right across the bay in San Francisco, ended up having to actually negotiate for their release. And what does it say that we have such great allies in the legislature, such as Leland Yee, who are literally redirecting people from prisons to schools? And but it also speaks to what people expect to see out of tomorrow. And a lot of folks have asked, will Governor Schwarzenegger come out with some new policy tomorrow? Do you think there will be greater support for his idea of privatizing prisons to generate more money for education? But the reality is that the allies that we have are in state government are those individuals in the state legislature, not just a governor who will occasionally throw us a bone that will further destabilize this state. And it's not just our job to make just a big enough stink to evoke reaction from them, because we know that the gridlock occurs more among the individual anti-public education folks, and we also know that movements mean more when people stand by each other, just like Leland Yee stood with those students, and just like the faculty back in the free speech movement stood with the 800 students and managed to post bail for them. And it's hard to stay invested in this when we don't know if tomorrow morning we're gonna wake up and see more burning dustbins turned into national headlines. on the news. But we also have a collective memory of what it's felt like to be part of the protests last November. And so we know what it's like to link arms with people. We remember what it was like to try and block off parts of Wheeler Hall when the first occupiers were in here, and there were lines formed to not let anyone pass through. And I would also say that a lot of black students on this campus know what it was like when they held that fantastic blackout on Monday at Sather Gate. Yeah. And people were trying to push past them and interrupt them, and ended up having to go through the side. But when people try to shove through these picket lines or human barricades or through the black students who were standing up against invisibility, and yelling things like, oh, I pay fees, why can't I get to my class? Last year, Monday, and tomorrow is about being able to turn to them and say, now you know what it's really like to be denied access to something. Okay. So, because safety to a lot of students on campus, once again, it's not the ability to exit tense situations, it's not being scared of deportation when you're walking to class. And it's not being scared of bankruptcy when you're trying to finish your midterms. And tonight I was a co-facilitator at a queer and allied town hall to sort through a lot of the hateful incidents that we've been experiencing this week. And I want to highlight a couple of the recent hate crimes that the UC has experienced. So the first is that at UC Davis, the LGBT Resource Center was vandalized with all too familiar anti-gay epithets, just spray painted right over the door and on the stoop. And at UC Riverside, also a press release just came out Monday revealing that last month, 2 male-identified students were walking down the street 2 blocks from a public high school holding hands, and they were assaulted, beat up, and anti-gay slurs were yelled at them on February 10th. And we've also seen this month a swastika carved into a UC Davis student's door. She happened to be Jewish. We saw the Compton Cookout at UC San Diego. And we saw the radio broadcast in response to the protest against the Compton Cookout direct the utmost racial slur against the Black Student Union there. We saw a noose left at San Diego, 2 nooses actually. We saw a noose drawn on a bathroom stall in UC Santa Cruz. We saw a KKK mask thrown over a statue at UC San Diego again, and these are all just in the last month. But we don't also always talk about where it happens here at Berkeley, like a university vehicle being spray painted with the word fag a couple years ago, or 2 students being thrown out of a frat party for being overt about their sexual orientation last year, or the homophobic graffiti on Sather Gate last semester. So in this sense, tonight I was speaking to a fellow student, and he said, I feel like the 2 most hated groups in America right now are Blacks and LGBTQIA individuals. And I mean, it's true, we're seeing these events not just on the UC campuses, but also even the University of Missouri just this last week, there were cotton balls scattered in front of their Black Culture Center. And at the University of Texas, Austin, 2 gay students were beaten up on their way out of a nightclub just last week. And what does that mean to students when they don't feel safe on their own campus? Because to these students, safety can mean getting to hold hands with somebody you love, or it can mean that you don't feel hated by fellow members of the UC population. And so, what does this mean tomorrow, which is also coincidentally the date of the Compton Cookout Part 2, so keep an eye out for that, because that will be, I guess, their own day of action and our reaction. So it means that you, and alongside you, and among you will be people who are hurting and healing from this hate that has been going on in the UC system. Because The people who you will be marching alongside tomorrow won't just be fighting for their students or their professors or their younger siblings, but for themselves to feel safe in their decision to come to college and to stay in college. And it's not a coincidence that these two groups targeted this week are among those who are also historically denied access to education. And what Jeff talked about, respect for our fellow organizers and marchers, is one of them, is of the utmost importance tomorrow. To make sure that safety really happens, because feeling safe on campuses, feeling safe in higher ed, feeling safe among your peers can only happen if everyone's actively working towards it. So tomorrow I have a few precautions to make sure that you and everyone around you really feel safe. So the first is recognize the courage of the students, faculty, staff, and workers around you. And the second is to stop the hate when you see it, before the nooses get drawn on the bathrooms, before, we see Cal TV do something like, God forbid, like the UC San Diego station did. Stop this hate when you see it. And the third thing is, when you find yourself in tense or incendiary situations, extend your arms and link them with the people next to you. Thank you.